Hey y'all, and welcome back. Today we will be reviewing another slapped ham video that is titled Freaky Footage That Needs Explaining. So let's see how freaky this footage might be, shall we? Let's go.
Is it possible to live while missing vital parts of your body? According to this seriously freaky footage posted to YouTube by Febria Dixon, the answer seems to be yes. In this bizarre clip, we see a man in the Philippines attempting to make his way across a busy street without a very important body part, his head. The footage has been recorded on a street with heavy traffic in the bright light of day. Only a few yards away from the camera, we see the man who looks rather ordinary at first, attempting to cross the busy street. His missing head, however, appears to be causing some trouble, as he boldly walks in between cars, earning angry honks from the drivers. Are these drivers honking him because he's in their way? Or, like us, are they alarmed at the fact that he's attempting to navigate his way across the road without a head? One possible explanation for the bizarre headless man is that he's a ghost. Perhaps the ghost of someone who was tragically killed along this very roadway. However, he looks altogether too solid and corporeal to convince many viewers that this could be the case. Another possibility lies in ancient mythology, where headless creatures called Akaphaloi or Blemyes were believed to roam the countryside. According to the legends, their facial features were actually on their chests. However, these creatures were believed to only show themselves in remote areas, so it's unlikely one would appear on such a busy roadway. Perhaps the legend is true and these creatures have become more bold in recent years, but for now it seems this headless man will have to remain a mystery.
Now, if anyone believed that this video was real, I will sell you Goatman's trellis for a very, very reasonable price. Anyway, I'm joking with that. I don't even know that. That's Goatman, so I can't sit there and actually sell that to y'all. But anyway, this video right here. Now, I'm sorry, but I would feel as if somebody, honestly, if somebody saw a headless person walking about, trying to cross the street, don't you think that'd be a little bit more mayhem, a little bit more distress going on with that? Because I know if I saw somebody with no head walking across the street where I live, believe me, I would be finding some way to get as far away as possible, just simply because that would be very, very, very unnerving to me. But, you know, y'all want to debunking on this, right? So it's obvious, especially with the coloration and the saturation of the individual itself compared to the rest of the video. He has been edited in some form or another, whether they added this person in there, because I'm kind of leaning more towards him being added in there afterwards, just simply because the traffic as he was going through it, it didn't seem to be honking at him per se. It just seemed like they were more honking at the other motorists that were trying to cross. And I kind of looked like I'd be more afraid of that traffic, honestly, because it looked pretty crazy. And I've seen some crazy traffic. Any of y'all ever been on the Jersey Turnpike before? Y'all would know what I mean. Anyway, besides the point, we're not going to talk about traffic. We're going to talk about this person. So I'm leaning more towards the fact that he was probably photoshopped and edited into the video before. Just afterwards, I should say. Just simply because of just the saturation and the color of, like, the outfit he's wearing compared to the rest of the street and everything like that, and other people's clothing, other people's attire and everything like that. It just seemed a little bit more darker. Sure, he's wearing dark clothing, but it just seemed more like blurry, a little more smudged, if you ask me. So yeah, he was added in either through a, just photoshopped in and he wasn't even part of the scene, or he was legitimately trying to cross the street and somebody just edited his head out, so it just kind of made it look like a more creepier appearance. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Was this gentleman added afterwards, or was his head just edited out of this? So, with that, let's move on to the next one.
CCTV is a great source of freaky footage, and this creepy clip posted to Reddit by user Littlebo has caused numerous arguments on the popular social media site. This video takes place in a tattoo shop, where an artist is preparing to put some new ink on a client. The artist is sitting in a chair near the wall while the client stands in front of him, showing the area she wants to be tattooed. All of a sudden, the tattooist becomes the victim of what many have described as some kind of paranormal activity. As he discusses the tattoo design with his client, a speaker on the shelf suddenly falls down, hitting the artist right in the head. As it does, it knocks several other objects off, which also land on the unfortunate man. Some Redditors who have seen the freaky footage believe that the tattoo artist's chair most likely caught one of the speaker's wires and pulled it down. However, toward the end of the clip, when the client picks up the speaker from the floor, we can clearly see that it's actually wireless. In addition, the artist was sitting completely still in his chair at the time the objects began to fall. So what do you think? Was this simply just an accident? Or could it really have been the work of a resident poltergeist? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below.
I tell you one thing, I'm very glad he hadn't started the tattoo when that situation happened, because yeah, that wouldn't have been good at all, especially if I was paying for that tattoo and it was me that was getting tattooed. Yeah, nah, I'd have been a little bit upset. But as for all that stuff falling off the ledge and everything like that, I've actually seen this clip previously on the television show Paranormal Caught on Camera. So I've seen this one several times, and each time it's a little strange. I mean, obviously y'all don't see him moving anything, because, first off, I don't know why he's got a chair like that. Most artist I've always been to has a stool as opposed to a chair, because it has a little bit more range and movement. And if you gotta sit there and he's got to move his arm a little bit more, it's just more movement for a tattoo artist in general. Yeah, it looked like he was giving more of like a consultation with it, and also was just trying to set up everything, but it was just a little odd to me that he had that type of chair. Anyway, besides the point, y'all see, he was probably a good half a foot away from that wall, so he didn't bump into it and knock into the wall. It was just really weird, though, that it looked like that one, it wasn't even the speaker that fell first, as they first quoted that it was the speaker that fell. It looked more like a book fell first, then the speaker. So I'm just wondering what's going on, since we don't have any sound to this and everything like that. It's very peculiar, so obviously with no sound, we can't really discern what's going on per se, besides him going through and setting up where this person wants their tattoo. But I'm just wondering, was there any construction or maybe somebody doing something on the other side of that wall? You knock hard enough on a thin wall, you can knock somebody else's stuff off on their side, and it's very strange, very peculiar, so it makes it seem like, mysterious and everything. So this is what I'm trying to say. I know it sounds like I'm going around and circling and circling and circling. What I'm trying to say is, without the sound quality that's added, because probably the CCTV does not pick up sound, it's just, we don't know if there's construction going on the other side, or if this is something that could be truly unexplained. But then again, it could also be explained without construction being part of it. You could have some sort of unevenness in the shelf that everything was on, because you never know, like throughout the time, putting more stuff and more stuff on a shelf, even though it just seemed like it wasn't laden down with a lot of knickknacks and things like that. It over time, especially because we don't know the exact weight of that wireless speaker he had. Over time, if the walls aren't that great and they didn't like put a nail in the stud and everything like that, and it's going through drywall, throughout time, it could kind of like just get misaligned a little bit. You may not see it with your naked eye, but if you put a level there, it might not be exactly centered, So it could have been slightly askew, and the items that were put there weren't put there like in such a great, like sturdy position, so they could have just fell off and just started knocking things off whenever whatever was the one that first fell came off first. I mean, what do y'all think? Construction? Or was it something unexplained? Or was it something as simple as a poorly placed shelf? Let me know in the comments below and we'll continue on to the next.
Most people would probably try not to anger a ghost if they were ever unlucky enough to be confronted by one. However, the men in this truly bizarre video seem to share a different opinion as they defend their ground against a mysterious figure. The freaky footage begins by showing the figure standing beside a group of parked motorcycles. Nothing seems out of the ordinary at first, that is until the man begins to move around. As he does, it quickly becomes clear that he's semi-transparent and at times seems to blend into the background. Soon a scuffle ensues and the strange figure appears to move with supernatural speed and possesses superhuman strength. Realizing that he's outnumbered, the ghostly man suddenly vanishes into the darkness, leaving the other men confused, wondering who or what they had just witnessed. Was this really a ghost? Some viewers have suggested that it could have been an ordinary man dressed in some sort of secret military clothing. Clothing that perhaps gave the man superhuman strength and speed, as well as the ability to camouflage from his enemies. Unfortunately, without further information, this video will have to remain a mystery, at least for the time being.
What's got me shocked is people actually possibly thinking that that man was dressed in like a military garb that would give him superhuman abilities. That just kind of makes me chuckle a little bit, just simply because he's obviously dressed in darker clothing, because otherwise he's not being caught and picked up by the CCTV camera, as opposed to the other people who are dressed more like in a light colored. I can't tell since it's more like a black and white. I'm assuming that it's white that they're wearing. I mean, but it could be another lighter color, beige, maybe. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all the colors it could possibly be, but as y'all could see, he's wearing darker clothing as opposed to the other gentleman. And I'm going to bring up this a little bit more later, because there was something in there that can actually, in the video clip, that will kind of reinforce what I'm getting at with this person. But anyway, obviously, he's wearing more free-flowing clothing. Obviously, like a pair of pants, a shirt, as opposed to the man that started attacking him. Well, obviously he attacked first. Besides the point, he was throwing rocks, and the other person was kind of defending the whole area itself. But going to the clothing back again, the gentleman who was throwing the rocks was wearing obviously like a pair of pants and a shirt, along with the headdress he had on, and his assailant was wearing more of like a traditional Middle Eastern garb that's more longer and more like what I would almost consider more like a robe. I don't know the exact wording for traditional men's dress for the Middle East or Muslim culture. So I'm not going to, really go into that and everything. But he's, wearing something that's going to be a little bit more restrictive. So obviously, of course, the other man that's wearing a pair of pants and a shirt is going to be a little bit more quicker. And we don't know this man's backstory. He could be a black belt for all we know. And that could be the reason why he moves so quick. But also, take into consideration his dark clothing, and it made him look, as Callan had said, semi-transparent. So, dark clothing, of course, it's not going to catch, and there's going to be more motion blur, so it looks like he's moving maybe a bit faster than the other person. I just think, in all honesty, he was probably in a little bit better shape than the other gentleman, and was able to, dodge and bypass some things. Obviously, this gentleman has been in a few scuffles in his past, needless to say. So, it obviously makes more sense, in my opinion. Less restrictive clothing and maybe a little bit more physically able-bodied as opposed to the other one, which would make his moves more faster, and for him to be able to get out of the move that the one gentleman had him in, and he was able to spear him into his stomach and make him fall to the ground, Anyway, what I'm going to get at, too, is y'all saw towards the end of the video another gentleman in darker clothes that was helping the men with the sticks and the man who attacked the man who was throwing rocks. Y'all saw him, too, right? Wearing, like, a pair of pants, shirt, a little bit darker compared to everybody else's clothing, and he seemed to blur too. So, into the logic of some of the people who saw this and would automatically fall for it, he should be a ghost too, correct? He blurred. He had where he kind of disappeared partially, especially when you got further from the range of the camera. He kind of disappeared into the night, compared to the gentlemen that were wearing more of a lighter colored clothing. So, was he a ghost too? No. It's as simple as low resolution camera footage and darker clothing mixing in with the night, so it would create more of a blur and seem more supernatural, So, I think we got this one figured out. Let's move on to the next.
Redditor Flower Sliders probably wasn't expecting to record any freaky footage while taking a walk on an abandoned road in rural Japan. However, it seems that supernatural experiences have a way of finding you when you least expect them. As they were walking, they noticed some strange movement in the bamboo trees along the side of the road.
Why is it doing that?
See that down there?
What?
Right there.
While it isn't unusual to see trees swaying in the breeze or moving as animals scurry about, it's definitely bizarre to see the trunk of a single tree shaking back and forth, while the others around it remain perfectly still.
I don't understand. I'm gonna look this up. And
Maybe there's some way. Still, no, it's not.
In an attempt to explain the odd movement, several Redditors offered their opinions. One theory suggested that a large animal could have been feasting on the tree's roots underground. However, others asserted that there are no subterranean animals that eat bamboo roots big enough to cause this type of shaking that live in Japan.
Okay, why is it still moving?
Can we go?
Another theory is that the strange movements were caused by the Kodama, spirits from Japanese folklore that are said to inhabit trees. It's said that the Kodama protect forests where they dwell, and anyone who attempts to cut down a tree will become cursed. If this truly was the work of a Kodama, then hopefully this Redditor left the trees alone after recording this freaky footage.
I just want to state for the record that artist rendition of the Kodama was very cute. It kind of was reminiscent to Toad from the Super Mario video games. Just kind of more like drained of color, except for the spots on his little, mushroom cap and everything. But anyway, besides the point. What I'd really like to know, what in this video is suggesting that this is Japan, besides it being bamboo? I'm safe to assume that whoever was, had set up this video and things like that, ain't never been to the southern part of the United States. I mean, we do have bamboo forests down in the southern parts of the United States, just for the record. I mean, if any of y'all watching this is from there, you'll know exactly what I mean, because a lot of stuff back a long time ago, when we had more of a partnership and things like that with other countries, and for example, we did have a little bit more dealings with China back in the day, and and we'd also get gifts from Japan and everything like that after World War II. I mean, we do have a cherry blossom festival in multitude of locations throughout the United States, and the cherry blossom tree did come from Japan. We also got other gifts and forms of plants and everything like that. The one that we got from China, though, that one is very, very invasive and a pain in the ass to deal with. Any of y'all know what I'm talking about? I hope y'all know what it is. Kudzu. That stuff can sit there and grow a foot in a few days. So you talk about fast growing, fast moving, and can destroy anything. Kudzu. Just wondering if it was really a gift, Anyway, we talking about this bamboo forest. So, like I say, the people that are there in the video are obviously speaking English, and I don't detect a real complete, because now don't get offended, anybody who's outside of the United States listening to this. I don't hear a foreign accent. I'm hearing more of them sounding like more from the United States, So it could be that they go and they're a tourist in Japan, or they could just be somewhere in the southern portion of the United States in some of our lovely, lovely bamboo forests that we have, because bamboo is an invasive species in the South, and they make excellent fishing poles. Any of y'all ever use a bamboo fishing pole? You know what I mean. But anyway, we see some movement with one that's obviously more in its final stages of life, which would make a pretty good fishing pole. Maybe it might be a little too damaged and too taut. I know I'm kind of messing up on that word right now, but you know what I mean, too rigid, might break easy, especially if you got a big fish on the line. But y'all saw how the rest of the bamboo was green, as opposed to the one that was doing this little jig over there, and it was more brown in color. So therefore I could tell it was at the end of its ropes, possibly already expired, we could say. And it could have been, and y'all noticed the hill too, right, that they was on, cause obviously with that camera angle they had to look down. Yeah, there was a little bit of lighting, but not as much that could actually see the bottom of said hill. So them talking about creatures like the Kodama, or maybe something legitimately underneath the root system that was munching on those roots, which obviously something was dealing with those roots for it to be in the state it was. So, or another one we didn't even think of. Maybe somebody been at the bottom of that hill holding it and just kind of shaking it around and making it look like it's dancing. We didn't think that one, did we? But when I'm probably more than likely thinking along the lines that this isn't Japan, this is possibly more around the United States, southern United States. And there's a gully right there, and there's a whole bunch of bamboo shoots coming out of it, and you can't see the bottom. So there's something at the bottom of it, maybe an animal scratching up against it, or maybe one of their friends to make things, spice up a video and get more views. A friend of theirs could be shaking it and making it do his little dance. What y'all think? Is it an animal or was it a person down there? Let me know in the comments below and we move on to the next.
According to this video uploaded to YouTube by Steve5681, some ghostly entities seem to enjoy causing trouble after hours. This creepy clip shows what a security camera caught when a shadowy figure showed up in a bottle shop after closing time. The CCTV camera focuses on one of the aisles in the store. At first, everything's still. As the camera rolls, the view of the aisle suddenly becomes obscured for a split second, as what appears to be a white shadow passes over the screen. Suddenly, dozens of bottles begin to fall off the shelf, smashing all over the ground. If the mysterious white figure truly did cause the mess, then it would seem it could have been a very powerful poltergeist. In the future, this store's employees should be extra careful when wandering around the aisles after hours.
I know one thing. I really would not have wanted to come into the store and see that mess and have to clean it up myself. Oof. I feel bad for whoever came in the morning time for that. But, I know some of y'all, let's be honest. How many of y'all have ever been into a store like that to partake of spirits that are not part of the paranormal? How many? Probably quite a few of y'all. Anyway, what I'm getting at is y'all been into some of these stores before where all the shelves are just congested and you really are kind of afraid to even pull a bottle off the shelf because it's so fully packed and everything like that you're afraid you might knock over the whole shelf. And I've been in places like that where it's a little, ooh, do I really want to get that, or should I go to a shelf that has a little bit less on it and be, more comfortable in picking up the spirits I wish to partake in. Anyway, I feel like that could have been where it was just so much weight, especially on the front of the shelf, that maybe the little hooks, because, okay, little secret, I've worked retail and I've had to install those shelves. There's like little holes. If y'all have been shopping in certain stores and everything, y'all see the little holes on the back wall of that aisle and shelving unit. If you don't put the hooks that are on that shelf in properly, yeah, it'll look like it's ready and set to go. But then when you start putting weight on it, a few things here or there is not going to cause too much of a problem with them. But the more weight you put on it, the more pressure, especially towards the front, and all of a sudden it just caves and everything falls off of it. So that is kind of where I'm leaning to on that. It's a bit unfortunate, and honestly, it can happen anytime, especially if some of those shelves are old. You don't know how old the shelves are, so could be a little bit rusted, could have had some sort of weak point in it and things like that, and it knocked over. I've seen it before. I've seen it several times with something like that, actually. But what's really getting me is that white flash on the screen. That was a bit interesting. We could have the case of a car maybe turning its lights on and then turning them back off. Somebody getting in the car, the lights automatically turn on nowadays. And then once you close the door and start, getting everything ready, they'll come off. Especially if you do, hit the button to lock the doors and everything. But it could be that. It could have been a moth. But I didn't see any fluttering. So, that the moth can be thrown out the window. Could possibly be somebody left a fan on in the night. Or some sort of cooling system. And maybe it kicked on and there was maybe underneath the camera there might have been a sheet of paper or something, and it blew up in it for a little bit, and it just distorted the camera's view for a little bit. That's the part that's really getting me. I can explain away the shelving because, it's just those things that was packed. That was that was really packed. So it could always be a possibility of just structural integrity on that, and the shelf just surpassed its point and decided it was going to take a little break, physically speaking. This would be very literal and not figurative at all. So I don't know what y'all think. You think it might have been something supernatural, or was it a sheet of paper that went and just kind of flooded up in the camera, or maybe somebody's headlights kind of turned away into it real quick? Let me know in the comments below, and let's move on to the next.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAP, commonly called UFOs, are not all that unusual. However, in this freaky footage shared by Redditor Revan Tex, the unidentified object behaves in ways that have UFO enthusiasts scratching their heads. In the clip, a black orb can be seen zooming around the sky. Without knowing how far away it is from the camera, it's difficult to gauge the object's size. However, its movements appear faster and more controlled than one would expect from a drone or other human-controlled aerial device. Several minutes into the video, the object suddenly dips into the water. However, it does so without leaving a single splash or ripple behind. A few seconds later, the object re-emerges from the water, but now appears to have split into two. Both craft fly in tandem for a few seconds before disappearing suddenly, perhaps slipping back beneath the waves. The strange behaviour of the object in and around the water is unlike anything UFO specialists have seen before. So far, no one's been able to come up with any reasonable explanation for what this object was, or how it was able to perform such unbelievable manoeuvres. Love to get your thoughts on this one in the comments section below.
Now, I know some of y'all are probably scratching your head because he mentioned that UFO specialists have never seen anything or tried to get an understanding of this. I will say that this is an older episode from Slapped Ham. So this was before the whole congressional hearing for UAPs and things of that manner. So this, just to go back to the video itself, after clarifying that this is older and that we have learned a lot more since this has been quote unquote aired, I guess you could say, this whole, just thinking of the best way to put it, because I don't know if you could say these videos on YouTube air or not, like you do with like TV programs and anyway. But besides the point, since more information has came out and everything, this video here is very, very reminiscent to the Tic Tac video. So y'all have seen that one before. That was the one that was put up in the congressional hearing in regards to UAPs back in, I want to say 2023, so a couple of years ago. And it's just really interesting to see something like this. And obviously, unless this is completely hoaxed out and faked here, this does look like the recording panel more so from a jet fighter and everything, because you saw the disarm and all that stuff with it. And also just the reticle in the middle, where it can actually, highlight a target and everything. So, this kind of could possibly be a leaked video from military personnel. But it could also very well be faked. I'm not 100% sure with that, because obviously we're just Not the ones who filmed it, but the ones viewing it. But, you know, like I said, it's very, very reminiscent to the Tic Tac video, and it's very interesting and everything. One of the theories that has now been put out, and I'm pretty sure some of y'all, if y'all are part of the paranormal community, I mean, I'm pretty more than certain y'all are because y'all are listening to me. But anyway, one of the theories of the reason why some of these UAPs, or what was formerly known as UFOs, going in and out of the water like that, is based more so on possibilities of, you know, their propulsion systems and how they can generate their energy for these vehicles, I guess you could say. I mean, what else would you call a spacecraft but a vehicle, right? And that, you know, sometimes what they'll do is they go into places. I know this is supposed to be all near Puerto Rico and everything like that, but, you know, classic example over in California, the Mariana Trench, they talk about some of the volcanic vents and things like that. This is possibly one of the ways they can have their energy sources. And the only reason I brought up Mariana Trench is because it is near that Ring of Fire system and everything like that that's in the Pacific, that is one of the most active volcanic systems to my knowledge. And, you know, that was just something I thought of. And I know there are vent systems, and, you know, on the East Coast and in the Atlantic, there is also a fault line, and you would have more of your vent structures from like the volcanoes and just that activity, but it's not as heavy as the Ring of Fire. So, you know, that's one of the reasons they say that they go and play, so to say, in and out of the water. Also, you never know, they could be using the salt water as a means of propulsion. So we don't really know because we haven't gotten to that level of technology yet, nor have we been able to make contact with anybody who would have that sort of necessary research and development for that sort of propulsion systems. So, whether this, let's get to the main point though, whether this is true or not. Let's see. I mean, you can always fake a setup for an overhead view of a jet fighter and things like that. I mean, come on, obviously we've seen it done in the movies, so therefore it can be faked, but to get some of the things just right is a little hard, and you'd have to know what you're doing. So, I mean, it could be a verifiable piece of footage. Any of y'all know if this is a hoax or not? Let me know down in the comments below, because right now at this point it just is so reminiscent of the whole Tic Tac video that was done by, you know, the United States military personnel, and it just fallen 2 years after the fact of the congressional hearings and everything on the subject matter of UAPs. It's just an interesting subject to go across, and with it being where we are now in this time of year, and 3i Atlas has already made its way past Mars, you know, and is basically on its way to being behind the sun at this point. So, and following up behind us, it just makes things a little more interesting and makes people want to kind of believe these a little bit more, you know what I mean? So if any of y'all know of this as being a complete hoax, or if it is actual legitimate video footage, hit me up in the comments below and let me know. But like I said, it's just very reminiscent of the Tic Tac videos. Let's move on to the next.
There's no better place for freaky footage than a dark abandoned roadway late at night. In a video uploaded to YouTube by Drunken Monk Official, one group of friends came across something very bizarre during their late night joyride. As the car drives down the lonesome road, a bright white figure suddenly appears illuminated by the car's headlights. Those in the vehicle appear disturbed, but as they approach closer, things get even more bizarre. The figure looks to be an old man wearing a white gown. He holds a gnarled walking stick in one hand as he slowly shuffles down the street. It's not just the odd appearance of the man that seems to startle the occupants of the car, but also the way in which he walks. His legs stick out at odd angles and he seems to be walking slowly backwards down the road. Even when the car is directly behind him, he never turns around. Some have posited that the figure in this freaky footage is just an ordinary old man, perhaps lost or making his way home. However, others have questioned the man's bizarre behaviour. The occupants of the car are too disturbed to get a closer look, so the truth about this strange figure's appearance on the road that night will likely have to remain a mystery. What do you think? Is this just an ordinary man walking backwards down the road? If so, why? Or could these joyriders have stumbled upon something far more sinister? Let me know what you think's going on in the comments section below.
Now, with this clip, it is the end of our episode. So, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you did. And let's go on to this lovely last video clip. Now, judging by the language, I do want to say that this video came from India, maybe. There was a few words here and there that I did catch that sounded like one of the languages from India. So I did a little bit of research, or at least tried to do a little bit of research on this, and I really couldn't come up with maybe a folklore that would kind of had them so startled with coming across this gentleman. But the closest thing I did see was of a Indian folklore about the Nuli. I just want to make sure, I hope I did not just destroy that. But anyway, it's about these creatures that are from, I think, Mount Nulis is what it said. And one of the main things that they have about them is that their feet are backwards. I mean, obviously we could kind of tell this person kind of looked like they were walking more pigeon-toed, but you know, the backwards walking is what got me with this one. And I wouldn't, well, sorry, take that back, not really pigeon-toed, but more kind of like almost like a waddling type thing, because its feet pointed outwards and everything, a little strange, and kind of feels like it would be a little bit uncomfortable to do that. But back to the folklore. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue in this. It even comes up in medieval European manuscripts, including the Nuremberg Chronicles. And there's not much really known about these creatures, the Nuli. Just that their feet are turned backwards, and they walk backwards too, but it just doesn't seem to enable, you know, their regular walking and everything, and they can walk forward, backwards, what have you. But there's so much fear about them, mainly because so much wasn't ever really discussed about it. Maybe there's none of the folklore has made its way fully to Western world, you know, here in the United States, Europe, and things like that. Maybe not too much of the folklore has been released, because I know a lot of places in the East like to keep, you know, folklore mainly to word of mouth, same as what a lot of the Native American tribes had back in the day here. And a lot of things with oral traditions and histories get lost along the wayside. So, not like I said, not much could I really see on that. It's just that there's so much mystery wrapped around these supposed creatures. You don't know the reasoning behind why their feet are backwards. Is it to bypass time and space? be able to go forward and backwards in time to different locations and things in different times where they could maybe create havoc or what have you? Or was it to transpose between the different dimensions of the natural and supernatural realms? So there's a lot of, discrepancies in which one is which for this particular entity. So I couldn't really find much for y'all, but I mean, just take it for a regular perspective. You and a couple of friends driving down the road. It's the dead of night and it's dark. I mean, a lot of places, if you're outside of metropolitan and suburban areas, it gets pretty dark at night. Any of y'all agree with that? And anyway, say it's you and a couple of friends. Y'all driving down a dark road. And then all of a sudden, you see this weird white thing in the middle of the road. And as you get closer, you realize it's a person. And this person is walking towards you, but he's walking backwards and just doesn't seem put out by your vehicle and everything. And they're just making their way down the road backwards. I mean, that would be a little unnerving, even to somebody with a very rational mind. I mean, you think about it. Somebody who doesn't believe... I'm not trying to say we're all irrational, because if that's the case, then you know what, I will be irrational. But besides the point, what I'm trying to say, a person with a good bit of skepticism or just doesn't have a belief in this type of stuff would still find this highly strange, as opposed to somebody who does believe in the paranormal and supernatural. Wouldn't you agree? A bit unnerving, to say the least. So... I keep it with that. And since we really don't know too much about this, and I can only catch a word or two of what they're saying, so I can't give a full description of everything. So I'll leave it up to y'all's interpretation, what y'all think of it. Leave it in the comments below if y'all think maybe they just stumbled across an old man that's kind of deciding to walk a little strange in the dead of night. Either way, very eerie. Don't y'all agree? Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this, and I hope you come back for the next one. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you later.